Hello.
We finally meet.
We finally meet
Yeah.
here in Korea in the Kepler office.
Yep.
So I only have one question prepared for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why Cosmos?
Why Cosmos? It's a great question. I don't think I've ever had a good answer for it, but always felt like it was the most. It was the end state of blockchain in the sense that it felt the most human, with all the things that every human desires, but also comes with all the flaws of, humanness. In the sense that, everyone wants to be sovereign, everyone wants to be the king of something, they want to own something. So it's like Cosmos really has that. The whole interoperability. It's like, hey, I desire to be sovereign, but I also desire to belong with other people, and there's kind of connections that are being made. But there's also a sense of greed, and it's like sometimes sovereignty is a challenging thing to pull off, and Cosmos also has challenges like that. But ultimately, it just feels it's the most like organic ecosystem, and I feel like that's why I feel like it's sort of that like end state. So
For me, it was the most realistic. It was like Ethereum, like World Computer. I'm like, no. And then like Solana, I'm like, no, that doesn't sound realistic to scale up. And so for me, I was like, okay, Cosmos sounds actually like reasonable, where it's not extremely small hardware requirements, where
yeah,
it's not going to scale, or extremely big, where like Solana, where you're like, this is not decentralized. It was very realistic in the middle ground.
yeah.
But you did say the word was. So now, why still Cosmos?
That's a great question. I don't know. It's a lot of things, right? Like, some of these are, it's like, hey, this is the one ecosystem that I sort of learned crypto through, and I have a lot of personal attachments to wanting to see the things I helped build succeed. But at the same time, yeah, I don't think that fundamental thesis of the idea of app chains and interoperability has changed. I think this is still the most compelling way forward. So unless that thesis gets completely invalidated, I don't think I don't think I'll be kind of like leaving the ecosystem. So yeah.
Okay.
I feel like Solana had the best shot at it and still does. Maybe hot take, but it seems like Ethereum is becoming more and more Cosmos-fied, and Solana's sort of taking on that role of, hey, we're gonna have one composable synchronous computer for the entire world, and we're gonna leave scaling to the people who are manufacturing fast chips all the time. And it's still a very, very valid proposition, but I don't feel like it's crossed over that threshold of, hey, has it won? It's like, is this the only way forward now? And I don't think it doesn't feel like that's the case yet. So yeah.
And so building a Cosmos wallet, was there any thoughts of maybe we should not be a Cosmos wallet, or maybe do other ecosystems, or maybe Cosmos in the background? And
I don't think so. I mean, we support multiple ecosystems outside of Cosmos as well. So EVM is one of them. Starknet is another one, and hopefully by the time that this video gets released, we'll have Bitcoin as well. But at the end of the day, if you look at the wallet landscape, like every successful wallet has one ecosystem that they consider home. MetaMask, obviously is Ethereum. Phantom is Solana. I think you're seeing some more chain agnostic wallets coming from like exchanges such as OKX wallet, Trust wallet. But if you look at like the user base, like the wallets that have a home have far more users than the ones that are like sort of agnostic to everything, right? obviously a lot of these like even MetaMask is probably going to add Bitcoin and Solana. Phantom has already added EVM and Bitcoin, and I think it was Aptos or Sui, one of the Move ecosystems. So it's like, in terms of the support, it's all going to converge to being very similar, but it's sort of about identity and like where do you place home. And I think having that home is important. And for Kepler, that home has always been Kepler. For Kepler, that home is always Cosmos, and it'll probably continue to be Cosmos into the future as well. And I don't think we've ever disagreed on that stance. Yeah.
That was very good. Let me think of another question. I literally only prepped one question. Okay. Yeah. And so, how has been the pressure to like Cosmos isn't doing so great, like leave Cosmos, or like is Cosmos even growing, or how is that the negative vibes against Cosmos as like the Cosmos wallet feel?
Yeah, I think, where it hurts is people are like, oh, the reason why Cosmos isn't growing is because Cosmos doesn't support MetaMask. There was this phase in Cosmos when everyone would say, oh, it's like, if Cosmos supported MetaMask or Cosmos supported Phantom, we'll double our users instantly. So there was a lot of grants going out to different teams who were building MetaMask support for Cosmos. I always felt like that wasn't the issue. And in some ways it's sort of frustrating when people are like, oh, you are the reason why Cosmos isn't growing. And even if you don't believe that, if the majority consensus is that, it's like you just got to let that game play out. So for a lot of those like contrarian takes, I think that's how I've dealt with it, where just got to let it play out. You can't be like, hey, you're wrong. I know some people do that and do that well, but I think that's just not me, where you just got to let it play out and got to believe in something, believe that you're right, and hopefully you are. And in a lot of times, so like for us, I think we're lucky to have been more right in a lot of scenarios than wrong. And that's why we're still alive today. Whereas, Cosmos has gone through a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of teams that made more wrong decisions than right, and a lot of them aren't here. And for me, the ones that are, the most funny are like, it's like, all right, they come in during the Cosmos bull cycle when Cosmos is the hot stuff, and then like those are always the first to leave when it feels like it's about to sort of die off and things like that. So I don't know. I guess like you witness this happening a lot, and how that always ends up, where they go chase the next big thing, but that next thing also just dies off. So that being said, that phrase that Vitalik said on Twitter that got all the Ethereum people pissed about all the OGs are jaded. Like, I can see why. I guess I would consider myself a Cosmos OG at this point. I wouldn't, a few years back, but it's like you do sort of get jaded a little bit. But hey, that's part of the game, and you got to balance out your jadedness by enjoying what you're doing and what you're building. And I think that's sort of where I am in my phase of Kepler. I'm just, all right, sort of tune out what people are doing, but just like internally have a lot of fun building things that you feel like needs to be built, rather than what other people are saying needs to be built. So yeah.
I remember in 2023, I was like, MetaMask Snaps is already here. Where are the users at? And it was
yep.
Yeah.
There were, everyone was like, MetaMask Snaps for Cosmos is gonna solve the onboarding issue. Like, no one wants to install a new wallet to download an ecosystem. And like, bullshit. It's like, people would install Terra Station just because they wanted to use Anchor. Like, it's like, is it a difficult thing? Yeah, it's like, it's a hurdle, but it's like, but at the same time, if you can get the incentives just right, like, people are willing to do some crazy things. Like people were doing some weird shit to get like whitelist back when like NFTs were the thing. They're like, hey, jump through, like do 5 jumping jacks and whatever. Like they're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then you're like, yeah, you're saying having to download a new wallet is like what's killing. And there's a lot of cases there, right? But not everyone has the full context, and even I could be wrong. So just gotta let it play out.
A lot of controversial decisions. I think the biggest one was Terra, not supporting Terra. Can you talk about just like surviving Cosmos?
So, I mean, I guess it's been a few years now, so I can talk about this more openly, but there was a time, maybe like 2-3 years back, where up until very recently, Kepler has always been a self-funded team. We never had external investors. We were either funded through grants we received, or eventually like we asked for integration fees. And there were times when we asked for a lot of integration fees, mostly because, hey, it's sort of the market dynamics, right? If supply and demand, there was a lot of demand, and we just had a very tiny team that couldn't keep up. And we're like, hey, all right, it's time to monetize and make some runway, because that's how you survive. And we did charge, and there were teams that we were just not as excited to integrate with, and you just say no by asking for a lot of money. The teams that you were excited to work with, you're like, hey, we'll do it for basically free or something like that, right? So that pissed a lot of people off. And for Terra, we were always like, yeah, you gotta pay up, So that was our stance. And for Terra, they were always like, no, like if you don't want us, that's fine, go fuck off, which was sort of that Dove stance. You don't like me, you don't want me, that's fine. We have a million other people that's willing to do it for free. So, and then at the very end, like I think 2 months before the collapse, we sort of bulged and we're like, shit, whatever, all right, we'll add Terra. But I think it was just like 1 or 2 more months and it just collapsed. Yeah, so, but luckily, for us, you get to witness. We just never like a big part of our user base just wasn't Terra users. Most Terra users were using Station Wallet. I think the Leap Wallet was still fairly small. I think they were still new back then. So, but overall, there were people who were using. And that being said, just because we never natively integrated, like that doesn't mean a lot of things. It was literally, hey, do you have a staking interface that's labeled, like branded by Kepler, made by Kepler? Like the extension, people were using Terra still on Kepler. But yeah, I mean, you lost users. We definitely lost users, but not to the degree of like, Terra Station going from, I think at the peak, like 5 million users to now like probably like less than 300K. So I don't know. I think that was just pure luck, to be honest. Yeah.
What do you think about the ecosystem specific wallets versus sort of Cosmos, where everything's more different from the integration side of things, from just like all of that being a Cosmos wallet versus, let's say, like a Sui wallet, or even like Terra Station, which was only for an individual Cosmos chain?
I think I would love to be a wallet for just one chain, in the sense that, I think you reduce a lot of the complexity of running a chain, like a wallet that has multiple moving parts, and things are similar but not same, which adds a lot of headaches. But then again, if your thesis is multi-chain good, interchain inevitable, I think you just sort of got to deal with it, and either one, believe that this will eventually get better, or two, you just man up and solve that problem yourself. Like either assume there's a solution coming, or two, you are part of the solution to make this making this work better. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. To be honest, I don't have any more questions. I need to think
that's
some
fine.
more.
Why have you stayed in Cosmos?
Why have I stayed in Cosmos?
I mean, I know how you got into Cosmos. You're sort of like, you know, how have you stayed alive in Cosmos then?
It wasn't fun, but I was. What else do I want to do with my life? Do I want to work at another crypto company, like a different one, like not a Cosmos company, or maybe a more successful one, whatever? Or do I want to go to college, or get out of crypto and do something else? And then I was like, if I'm going to go to college, it's going to be to learn computer science to then become a Cosmos dev. And I'm like, I don't want to go to college. And then there's like all these layoffs, and I'm like, okay, like I made like the right decision.
Yeah.
And then it was like, even if I did do other ecosystems, I would always be looking at Cosmos stuff. And I remember I was like an intern at a different company, and it felt like I was like cheating on my wife by going on Cosmos stuff and being like, oh my god, like look at the drama this day.
Yeah.
And so it was like, impulsively, I couldn't keep my eyes off of it, and I just really enjoyed it, and that's why I was like, I don't care, I'll just go through it. But for a while it was like, oh yeah, I like Cosmos, and then you get like sometimes like faces, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the sentiment is now changing, where now some people are saying I love Cosmos, and people are like, yes, like it's painful, but yes, like. And there's seasoned community who genuinely enjoys it, and they're not in it for the money, because
Oh yeah, none of these people have.
yeah, so I think that's why I've always just been like, I like Cosmos. I don't really care if I'm poor, I'm having fun. So that's always been my thing. But in the bear market, it was very, very hard. But I was like, what else do I want to do? And it was like, this is the coolest thing. And so I just kept at it. And then
I think there's something nice about, like, the pains of being in Cosmos is like, the whole value accrual story. Like, it doesn't follow the right narrative. It's just like such a unsexy place to be in. But like, there's also kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just purely masochistic here, but like, I think it's kind of cool, like, being in Cosmos, where like this ecosystem has no clue how to like market itself or follow the right trends, where like, I don't know, like following narratives and chasing whatever, it's just like just so boring past a certain point, and you're just like, these are all these like old grandpas who've just been into the same thing that they were like 10 years ago and 20 years ago, and that just hasn't changed, and there's just something genuinely like nice and refreshing. I think it'll come back. It'll be like that, like, like people used to think like baggy jeans are cool, and then it became uncool, and then sort of became cool again. Like, I think crypto just needs to go through enough cycles where like, the uncool stuff just becomes cool again. Yeah. And it's all about, do you have what it takes to just wait enough time until that happens?
Yeah.
I mean, most people will leave, and that's fine. But Cosmos also has a lot of people who've just sort of been around for such a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was doing research on just like proof of stake, and I was like, okay, this guy like literally, like, it already exists. It's already here. It's already powering a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do no one? I checked the founders on Twitter. I'm like, these guys, like, no one likes these guys. These guys have like 5,000 followers.
Yep.
I was like, like coming from Ethereum or like Solana or other ecosystems, like the co-founders of the ecosystem are like gods. And in Cosmos, we don't care. We're just like, oh yeah.
For the record, Jay, I have never told other people. that I'm J-Con.
No.
Other people come up to me asking if I'm J. So the joke is I am J.
I forgot.
But please don't sue me. I have not told people I'm J-Con. So yeah. But yeah,
I totally forget. Yes.
This causal survival story is survival despite of a lot of things, when a lot of other ecosystems are like survival because of things. Like causal just it's a series of, hey, we survived despite of A, B, C, D, E. Solana, it's like, oh, we succeeded because A, B, C, D. So
Yes, I think
yeah.
because most because most other ecosystems, they have like one test trial and then either like they make it or they don't make it. Like Solana, like they made it this cycle, but Cosmos is still like not insanely big, and there's still like a diehard community of people who won't leave and still. Although it hurts, they still like. I still care about it. Like I still enjoy it. It's a different type of enjoyment. But like, you know, I'm still here. I've been into Cosmos for, I think now like 4 to 5 years now, and I'm still at it. You know?
What's the content that you're most excited to work on? What's your dream content? What's the arc that Cosmos needs to make happen for you to just be extremely excited about?
I want to make an amazing explainer series. Also, Cosmos has a lot of rich history that just isn't. A lot of people like Cosmos. You have to know all of this lore, and there's so much lore, and there's so much fighting, and I always wanted to make a documentary. Like that was like my deal.
Yeah.
I've also wanted to. I enjoy complex systems, and so for me, it was just like explaining why Cosmos is cool, is why I started making videos. Now, because of the diversity, I'm able to talk about like anything. So that's why I was just like, Cosmos content, that's what I'm going to do. But I think the interests are very wide ranging, where I don't feel I'm never bored in Cosmos.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think right now I'm spending more time in Celestial Land, but sometimes when I go back into consensus or infrastructure, I look like back into Cosmos and enjoy that stuff. But I think it's very realistic to think that there isn't going to be a standard. Like there's going to be lots of different solutions, and there's just going to be like one standard interop protocol. So my take is that after we exhaust all these bridging protocols, people are going to be like, what will already exist and work, and they're going to like go back into IBC. Do
you think that will happen? I genuinely think there's like a side that I'm like slightly worried, where it's like, yeah, the standard that gets adopted is never the best standard. It's the standard that just sort of got enough traction and network effect to the point where going back against this imperfect standard was just not worth it, and people were like, all right, this isn't the best one, but everyone else is using it, so we'll just use it. And like I think that's what a lot of bridging standards are, you know, trying to go for, right?
Yeah.
With a lot more treasury, with a lot more incentives, and a lot more drive on the business side and things like that. So
I think for bridging, it was always who can just sort of integrate the best bridge. Like just integration was sort of the differentiator, where honestly people don't really care, like as long as like it works, they don't really care about anything else. And the thing that with IBC, that was always the problem, was the integration stuff.
yeah.
It was free, it was an open standard, but like you have to get developers to do all that stuff. I think that's where the asterisk is either IBC or like Hyperlane, or Hyperlane is like similar to IBC. They just have like more customizability, extendability. hopefully that will change. We will see. But I think eventually, and Cosmos doesn't really come back. It's never really roaring. It's just, but it's never dead.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
So
it never feels like the leading narrative in any cycle, but it also doesn't feel like it's completely out of like the crypto conversations, like which is just very fascinating. I think
because all the like for Ethereum is like the main ecosystem, and then there's like every other ecosystem is an Ethereum killer, but Cosmos was never that, and so it's always been respected, but doing its own thing, and people never really hated on it or never really like despised it horribly. Like still respectable. That was always the weird thing for me.
It's like, oh, look at that cute guy still doing that thing, but like no one hates that like weird guy. But I mean, I think that's how people see Cosmos. Never seen as a threat. Never seen as scammy or like dishonest or like there's like Avalanche or like Sui and Aptos where you're like, man, like this is not really super. This is just like the same thing over and over. When Cosmos is very different and it's stayed. I think the inverse of Ethereum. Yeah, I mean, but okay. I think a lot of people who like Cosmos aren't like scammy or whatever, but I think one of the bullish case for Cosmos is this take that, like, people think L1 has more value than a smart contract, and it just happens to be that the Cosmos SDK is a very easy way to claim you have your own L1 without having any meaningful content or things built for it. And I think that's like the human side of Cosmos that I'm actually like, it's like, oh, is that awful? Probably. Like, not everyone who can build a chain should build a chain, but at the same time, it's like, is that like human nature of, oh, I want to build my own chain because that's better for me, reputationally, financially, it just looks cool or whatever. It's like, of course people are going to continue to do that. And like, I think there's that like weird kind of bipolarness within me where like, it's like, oh, people shouldn't be doing this, but then they're going to continue to do this, and like there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that's why like Cosmos is going to take off, because it's this like human nature of both sides, I think.
The premium is an ego where you're like, this is my chain.
Ego is like that fundamental. What the value driver for Cosmos is human ego. It's like there's always going to be someone who wants their own chain.
And that's why I think Cosmos has never died.
Yeah.
It's like there's always people who are like, I don't care, I want my own stuff, I want my own chain, I want my own customizations. I'm not willing to have a smart contract or like that sovereignty, that ego is another word.
Yeah.
It's
that's
never
the thing.
died.
That's the reason why I think roll-ups aren't gonna. Okay, maybe too spicy, but like you never want to be like someone else's. Like you never want to be an L2. The number 2, like 2 fundamentally just isn't cool. You want to be number 1. You want to be an L1, not an L2, right? Like everyone wants the number 1, and that's the ego side of Cosmos, and Cosmos provides that L1. So,
I think the problem is if you have too much ego, and I think this is like Terra, Kujira, Thorchain. It's like then you go over long on yourself, and then and then you just explode, and then Cosmos is still fine, it just continues.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the Kujira folks. It's just impressive. Ever deal with Terra, and then deal with their own implosion, and then deal with Thorchain. So, I don't know. I guess that's the community spirit. So I respect that. But that's the thing is I genuinely think like 2 or 3 years ago they were the most toxic community I've ever seen. but like I don't know, people come in to add a lot of toxicity, but they get real quiet when they leave, and I'm like, why can't people just leave? But like be like, hey, I was wrong, and then leave, right? Like that would add to a little bit more of like that nice vibe within Cosmos, but like no, everyone just comes in and says a lot of shit, and then when they leave, they're all real quiet, and then it just requires this like whole thing of like the people who have been around finally trying to be all like getting people excited. But the thing with Cosmos people is like we're not the coolest people out there. We're like very cringy. Like if you look at Cosmos memes and the Cosmos reply guys are like all kind of cringy. It's sort of like your, you know, like your 50-year uncle trying to be like, hey kids, have you heard about this new meme that I like? Hey yo, I made this new, I used the Giblify thing, and it's just like, yeah, that was cool about a week ago, uncle, but like that's the Cosmos people, you know. It's like it's kind of this like sort of cringy, trying to be cool, but not really like actually cool, and that's why it's so easy to make fun of. But like, I don't know, the genuine Cosmos people might be cringy and not the best at leading narratives, but they're nice people and with good intentions. So yeah, so maybe I probably fall into that camp as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me as well.
Yeah. But I think we can change that. I'll you know, just takes a little bit of time.
What's reassuring is that it's always going to be there. It's never like the tech is going to like be obsolete. There's always something being used. It's never like, oh, like the founder's already left and Cosmos is still alive. A lot of the, now I think second generation is now out, and now there's like third generation in, and like Cosmos is still alive. There's still people who care about it. I'm not sure if there's any 10-year-old ecosystems besides just Ethereum and Bitcoin who are still consistent at it.
Cardano,
Ripple.
They're still around.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And so how was the bear market, and then now we're gonna recap the bull market. So how was the bear market from 22 to like 23?
I think that was probably like the hardest bear market for me, because I got into crypto at 17, so I felt the bear market from like 2018 to 21, I think was that like 4-year cycle. But that was fun because your Cosmos still hasn't launched, and you still have that excitement of, hey, this thing is gonna launch, and then you have that excitement of, oh, now that the hub has launched, IBC is gonna launch. So it's like it's a bear market, but like psychologically, there's just always something to look forward to. And then the whole like post 21, like 22 on was just like, that was brutal, because like, you know, I was working on Osmosis and Kepler, and Terra exploded, and like Osmosis just isn't doing as well, which also means there's a lot of angry people. And then all of a sudden we're like, yeah, it's like this is all Osmosis' fault. This is all Kepler's fault. I'm like, okay, whatever. But there were a few certain points when I was like, why the fuck am I even here? Like, it's like I can leave anytime. So I was like, I don't know. There were times when I was like, okay, maybe I should just leave crypto for good. But then, no, you just sort of, crypto's all about just surviving. So let me think. What were some of the exciting things that we shipped? You know, still worked on a lot of like, I think like what got us through was just like going back to the basics of, you know, that was the first time when we really thought about, hey, for this wallet to continue, like we need to redo like the UX. And you know, I'm not sure how many of the people remember like the old Kepler interface where you had to select each chain. And that was the status quo. And, you know, I think that bear market was when we were like, all right, let's rethink this and let's just aggregate everything. And you know, because we felt like, all right, if we want things to be interchained, then this is one of the first things that needs to happen. And, so we spent a lot of time redoing that. Very unpopular when we first rolled out, but I think in retrospect, people now would agree that was probably the right move. And yeah, just like a lot of these, like going back to the basics of like, hey, what are some fundamental things that we need to improve upon to potentially make Cosmos better? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then you guys recently refactored into Flutter, right? Just everything?
But that was just the mobile app.
That was just the mobile app?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was just the mobile app. The extension is mostly the same thing. I think, that being said, I mean, one of the points of pride for us is I think we're one of the very few open source like extension wallets that are left in all of crypto. I don't think Phantom's code base is even open. MetaMask is open, but it's not under an open source license. Rabi is fully open source, but most wallets, I think the norm for wallets like in the early days of crypto, like 2018, 2019, etc., like everything was open source, code was open, license was open. Now I think we got into this like everything is closed by default, and you're like open sourcing your thing is like a big deal. And not all of our products are open source. Obviously we still have a business to run, but yeah, just fundamentally the extension being open source I think is a point of pride for us. Hopefully we, not sure how long we can do that, but I hope we would be able to kind of continue for as long as we can. So yeah.
And so I guess the rest has just been like integrations work, reliability.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the part that people sort of underestimate is like, one of the hardest things about running a Cosmos wallet is just the amount of added complexity on infra and things like that. And, it's like, hey, if Ethereum has an issue, it's like one chain has an issue. Everyone knows it's, Ethereum's having an issue, all right, everything's going to have an issue. Where, in Cosmos, it's like, oh, there was a bug in IBC and, the SDK needs to bump versions and upgrade. It's like you're having to deal with 20, 30, 40 potentially different chains coordinating these things. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work that is very hidden behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, I don't think most users know about this. I don't think they should. I think, but it is definitely true that there's more. It's more challenging to be working in this like multi-chain wallet scene than any of the single chain wallets. Yeah, and I don't think that problem has been solved yet. So,
and so, I think there's no going back from the multi-chain. Do you think whatever multi-chain wallet is the differentiator literally just who can do the most integrations the seamlessly for multi-chain and multi-ecosystem?
I think there was this one tweet by Georgios, I think it was. Was his name the guy from Paradigm?
Yeah. The Greek Paradigm.
Yeah. Where he was like, it's like wallets sort of have two directions to go. One is sort of onto the surface side where you capture, you basically create a very integrated wallet, right? It's like, oh, okay, you have a wallet. Wallet is your starting place. Do you want to swap? Right, we have an integrated interface for that. Do you want to borrow money? All right, you can. We basically make that user experience of doing something so easy and just within the wallet that you never have to leave the wallet. So it's just like, that being said, what is the flip side of this? It's like, all right, you're probably not going to get a lot of choices on which DEX you want to use, which lending protocol you want to use, because that decision sort of has been optimized around one thing that the wallet has decided. The other side was you go deeper into deeper onto the other side where like, all right, you basically try to capture on the order flow or get into like the mempool, or like, is there something you can do down at the node there, kind of a lot of that side, and try to kind of capture value there. And for us, I think we've always been trying to be on the second part where it's like, yeah, we're still trying to build this like very vertical wallet in the sense that we have a validator, we run endpoints in-house, we have the extension wallet, which is a signer, we have the staking interface. I don't think we have any specific like dApps, but we could be building that. But ultimately, I think the more I think about it, I feel like the opportunity for us exists in that it's like, hey, being able to be the center point of order flow is a tremendous amount of value, and app chains allow you to capture that much better than most of some of these other things. So I don't know. I've been in this like fat protocol thesis, has now moved to fat application thesis, and then now it's going to be the fat like distribution / order flow thesis. So yeah, again, just gotta wait it out until this sort of becomes a norm, and in the meantime try to build as much distribution / order flow as possible. So but for us, I think it's not like, hey, we're just gonna go with one specific lending protocol or one specific application. It's more like we open that up for people to build, make their own decisions, but hopefully there's opportunities on the flip side of that, whether that's through order flow or the amount of users we can convert. So yeah.
Talk about, where does the fat wallet thesis come in?
Where is the fat wallet thesis coming from?
Come in. Is that on the, does that speak on the like vertical integration of just everything? But
yeah, I think that's more on like the vertical integration of like distribution and order flow. Fundamentally, it's like, I don't know how fintech apps in the US is like, but here in Korea, you have a very popular fintech app called TOS. And it aggregates balances across banks. It lets you convert Korean won into US dollars. It helps you shop for insurance, compare insurance. It gives you a high-level overview of your credit scores. It helps you. So it's like the everything finance app, right? And the value that people used to be like, oh yeah, it's like TOS is never going to make money, and I fundamentally disagreed because it's like, yes, they themselves aren't a bank, which actually isn't the case anymore. They have become a bank now, but like, it's like, where does that power come from? Is that they have, I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but like tens of millions of users that are in that place who aren't interested in like comparing, hey, I'm gonna convert between Korean won to US dollars. It's like, which banks do you get? Like, can you give me? Like, most of these users don't care. They just want to get from point A to point B. And the fact that you have the power to direct users to a specific bank, right? That maybe you get a cut off, like, that's where that value accrual comes in from. And I think that's very similar to wallets in the sense that, like, all right, once you have that users, you can direct to specific apps and you're able to create that conversion path. That's a very powerful tool because, the amount of like money that gets thrown down the drain in marketing for the sake of like user acquisition and user retention, I feel like from an application standpoint, assuming you're able to get this like conversion flow or order flow directly from the wallet into your app, you're better off just like going for that instead of this like very vague marketing campaign that maybe converts 3% of people who have watched it. So it's like, I think it's like giving that optionality of multiple pathways in, and for wallets to have that user pool that they can direct is like one part of that fat wallet thesis. And then the other part of this on, it's like the MEV side of like the fat wallet thesis, right? It's like every transaction that gets signed is processed through the wallet's servers or endpoints, whatnot. And that means that your wallet basically has a very specific order flow of potentially very retail focused users who are, if you wanted to, you could technically just like sell this order flow, right? And have someone capture like MEV from this. Or you could maybe in-house like build products where like, build MEV protection in-house and charge money for it. But fundamentally, you need to have like scale and size for you to. Once you have the scale and size and like distribution or order flow, like there's just going to be opportunities to monetize much better, and it's also more apathetic to what the hot narrative is, because it's like we don't care if it's like DEXs or NFTs or whatever. It's like all of them use a wallet. I think that's cool, but maybe that's changing with the introduction of like embedded wallets now, where wallets are no longer the separate extensions or separate apps. They just sort of get built into the website. But I always felt like this is sort of going to happen, and I think I've talked about this like several years back. But that also has a host of its own problems in terms of you're taking away like the nice thing about like portability. Like what was like, yes, a lot of crypto UX sucks, but one of the things I do appreciate is, I don't have to sign up to a new website every single time, right? Like it's like, all right, okay, maybe installing and setting up a wallet is a very big hurdle, but once you've gone through that, right, it's like, oh, I've used Osmosis, I can sign it with my wallet. Now I want to try Stargaze. I don't have to go through this entire process in Web 2 where like, it's like now I have to sign up for this new account, set my username. No, it's like that's all within my wallet. I just have to connect it. And that portability part, I think, is like, it's real nice. And there's still kind of questions on how do embedded wallets sort of solve for this. Like you solve the onboarding issue, but you don't solve the usability issue in that sense. So yeah, we have some opinions on this that we're building more, I think, at this phase, still like experimental product on, but hopefully that's another angle that we can hopefully show, like, hey, this is like Kepler's take on what an easy to use and easy to onboard, and while maintaining all of that like nice like portability of existing wallets, it looks like. So yeah.
I think one of the arguments for like Cursor was it's just an AI wrapper, and then Cursor could just switch their backends, and then people realized
no one cares.
People realized that no one cared, and turns out the valuable distribution part was the wrapper part.
Yeah.
And it was actually just like the clean interface that lets you just do things.
Yeah. And then like, imagine if you're like some AI research company, right? Or like OpenAI versus, I don't know, Google. Like, it's like, hey, if I am able to train my model on Cursor users, like that's a big added plus. Now, we'd like to have, users, like it would be nice when users have sovereignty. I don't think that's the case right now. So it's basically Cursor who is like, it's like, all right, we have a bunch of users who are using your model, writing code on it. Do you want this data? And like, we'll sign like exclusivity to provide this. And like, you just get all these different providers to fight over this data because they know it's valuable. They know they can monetize on this and and turn this into like a competitive edge. And yeah, exactly. I think that's sort of that like fat wallet thesis where whether that's order flow or the number of users or the number of attention that you get, like the number of active users, like is much higher on the wallet than like one specific app or one specific, endpoint provider or whatever. So.
Talk about how do wallets actually get users and that distribution? Just sort of how do people like pick a wallet and change wallets, keep wallets? How do you get users for wallets?
I think my fundamental take is that you can build the nicest wallet in the entire world, but you're only going to get users if you have applications that people want to use. So how we get users is not by just us building a good wallet. I'm sure that's important too, but like fundamentally it just comes down to, is there applications that people want to use? And that's a big part of like how we approach this, where it's like, yeah, we want to support this ecosystem, because without ecosystem that's growing and that's getting a lot of demand, like we're just not going to get any more new users. It's like that part isn't really fully up to us. That part is up to everyone else that's building, and for us to really respect that, I think is important.
Why bad kids?
Why bad kids?
Yes.
The story for me getting into bad kids was, I think I woke up on like a Saturday or a Sunday, which was the day that Stargaze launched their Genesis like NFTs. But because I live in the Korean time zone, I wake up after everyone has minted whatever, but I got a bunch of Stargaze Stars tokens. So I was like, all right, I'm going to buy NFTs with this. And I think there were 10. Looking through some of them, and they're, Stargaze Troopers, like Stargaze Punks, all these other ones. But like those are all like whitelisted, and they were so hot, and like everyone wanted them. So like by the time I woke up, it was like all sold out. So I was like, okay, fuck that. Like I don't want that anymore then. So I was just trying to like, dig through the dirt, see if there are any gems, and just ran into the bad kids, and I was like, okay, like this is interesting. Looks cool. But went to their website, it's like, oh, we have no roadmap. It's like, oh, and this was at a time when all the NFTs were like, it's like, yeah, here's our roadmap. We're gonna launch a metaverse. We're gonna launch a game. We're gonna collab with Nike, and like, and for bad kids to just be like, we have no roadmap. That just felt so refreshing. So I was like, okay, I'll mint a few. So I minted, I think, about 5. I was like, okay, most of them look nice, but then I can't remember if it was like the first time I minted or the second time I minted, where I got the one with the Shiba, the one that I have as my profile picture. And me being Dogemos, I was like, oh my god, I didn't know. Well, like at the time everyone was minting, so you didn't even know which bad kids existed. And for me to like mint the one with the Shiba, I was like, wait, there's a Shiba Inu bad kids? I was like, okay, this is my collection. So I think I like bought a bunch of stars and just minted like on 4 accounts. So like I think I had like 80 bad kids. Still have all most of them. I think I wanted to get more people into Cosmos, so I started like giving it away to my friends or people that I liked in Cosmos. So I gave you your bad kid when I saw your video. I was like, okay, this guy's cool, doesn't have a bad kid. I'll give it to him. I think I gave it to, I don't know. I don't know how many people I gave it to. It was a lot. It's a decent amount. At least 20. We have this thing in Kepler where after your 3 month, you get a bad kid. It comes straight out of my wallet. So we have a strategic bad kids collection here at Kepler. And then, I don't know, there's just something like, there's a thread on Twitter that talks about the art of picking the right NFTs. Like, how do you check for its vibes? Like, does it feel like a rug or does it feel legit? Like, as in the art of chicken sexing. And there's a thread, I could probably link it to you later, but it's like once you've seen a lot of these like NFTs that, the art of chicken sexing is like, there's people, Asian people back in the day that would migrate into US, and one of their first jobs was like there'd be a little chicks that you have to decide it's like, hey, is this a male chick or a female chick? And I think it was just a female chick that had product issues. So like you basically just like, for most people they're like, they look identical, but like for these people they're like male, female. Or like you just sort of you have that like sixth sense, right? And like, and it is sort of that same thing where like that was at a time when there were so many NFTs, and some of these NFTs you could tell, someone just got an artist off of Fiverr and just paid them $500 to, hey, make 10 variations, just change the colors, or like it just looked awful. Like, and you don't exactly know what it is, but you can feel it. And for me, I could feel when like some of these were just like mass-produced, factory-made NFTs. And for Bad Kids, I could notice that like, all right, this person, like, yes, a lot of the traits are similar, but like you could actually tell like he hand drew a lot of these traits. He put a lot of thoughts into like distributing traits just right. Like I think a lot of the bad NFTs just do it where like it's like they make 5 really cool traits and then 5 really uncool traits, and then they put 5, like one of each in 5, and then they would just distribute it 20% each. I was like, that's so boring. And there's a lot of like hidden gamified elements that I knew whoever made this was just at least had to put some thought, right? So I appreciated that. So yeah, that's why I got into Bad Kids. That's why I'm still into Bad Kids, and that's why even though I hold other NFTs, I don't think I will ever change my Bad Kids profile picture. And if I do, I hope no one panics, because it'll probably be very temporary. So yeah.
I think for me, as a profile picture, like it's actually like simple and colorful, where you can tell each one of them feel different versus some collections. They're very muddy, so you can't really like... You're not like the Miladies, like I have to like read your username. With the Bad Kids, I know who that is.
Yeah.
And then the body shapes are also different, where it's not like the exact same guy.
Yeah.
And so they have different vibes, they have different shapes.
Yeah.
So for a profile collection, they do it really, really well. I think that was it for me.
There's just like something charming about like the aesthetics.
Because typically it's just like, let's do cartoon animals.
Yeah.
And then for it to be like have some texture and look like some kid drew with a crayon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you know, all respect to whoever this like Sneaky Productions guy is. That like that's always drawing stuff. Like it's like yes, but like you can tell this guy just drew it, took a picture of it, and just like this. But like no, like Bad Kids isn't about bad drawings. It's like it's actually very well drawn to be like it's a very poorly drawn art. Like I don't know how that makes sense, but it's like it's not just poorly drawn things. It's poorly drawn things drawn by someone who knows how to draw, and like that's the balance. So yeah.
It also fits with the Cosmos vibe. I don't know how, but it does.
I guess I never saw that part.
I just think all of them are different. It definitely is stylized, and it's not like before. You can see the Solana NFTs, and you're like, okay, these feel like some of the Ethereum ones.
But also, it's like, hasn't Solana had like multiple like Solana NFTs as well?
There were
like DGods, and then there was like
Utes.
I mean, I don't know most of them, but like it rotated through a lot. I guess for Cosmos, there's like Bad Kids, Mammoths, Sloth, but I don't know. In general, I still think like Bad Kids are still doing fairly punching above its weight for being on a fairly old collection. So yeah, there are times when I tell I would buy new Bad Kids along the way, and I would tell my wife, it's like, hey, someday this is gonna buy us our house. And like, I know you think I'm doing something dumb by spending $5,000 on this poorly drawn kid or JPEG of a poorly drawn kid, and I'm like, it's like, hey, someday this is gonna buy us a house, and I still buy into that. So yeah.
Anyways, I think we're good.
Yeah.
This is a really nice, very comfortable conversation.
Nice.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I still like Cosmos. I think now I'm no longer like really embarrassed to say that. I'm like, yep, not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still at it. But enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Really good.
For sure.
Anyways, thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Dogemos, Josh Lee.
Hell yeah.